Hi, this is Kristen Beck, and welcome to Currently Capsized, where we are plunging the depths of human emotion one shipwreck at a time. Currently Capsized dives deep into emotion, dysfunction, and what it takes to stay afloat in choppy waters when life isn't smooth sailing. We explore lesser known therapies, nervous system truths, and how to weather the storm when your emotions go overboard. So, this is episode 1 of Currently Capsized, and it's all about the experience of human emotion and how that can either benefit or be a detriment to us. Emotions from other people, emotional reactions. What function does your emotion play in your life? What function do other people's emotions play in their lives? We're just going to explore on this podcast, our YouTube channel and podcast. I want to explore how emotions can either take us further in life or hold us back in life. What can we do to manage our own emotions? Because there is a lot of evidence and mounting evidence over time that our emotional environment is what can either make or break our success in life, our ability to move forward. There is a lot that goes into our emotional ecosystem. Okay, so I thought a good place to start. I mean, there's so much to be said on the topic. I could start a whole podcast about it. Okay, but a good place to start, I thought, would be something that I have found interesting for the longest time. And so I'm going to go over this and we'll just see where it leads because I'll be rambling a little bit. Sometimes I'll have other guests on here talking about personal experiences or, talking about all kinds of things, really, because there are really not very many topics that don't include some element of human emotion. So we'll talk about everything. But I wanted to talk about something I find so fascinating, which is the placebo effect. People talk about the placebo effect as though it is an unimportant kind of side thing that isn't real. Even though it really happens, it isn't somehow a real reality. So I wrote an article. I'll post the article under this. If you see this on YouTube, the link will be somewhere down there in the description box or something. And I guess if you hear the podcast, I'll post the link there too. But what is the placebo effect? We hear this word all the time, and it's usually spoken of like a kind of ridiculous, unimportant thing. But what it actually is it shows either our mind or body or somehow our ability to heal ourselves, at least partially. There's a lot of evidence that shows that we have some capacity to heal ourselves physically, mentally, all just because of either what we're thinking or somehow our behavior changes because of what we're thinking. There's some mechanism that shows that we can heal ourselves. And people treat it like it's just a poo-poo thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we have some capacity to heal ourselves. What if we could make that capacity bigger? What if we could do, like what if there are other things that we can gain from this knowledge, that we can have some capacity to heal ourselves, even physically? Okay, so I wanted to explore that a little bit. And I've got some notes here, so sorry that I'll be looking at the notes, but, I have to because I can't remember all this and just say it normally. That's a lot. So I'm going to read stuff. Sorry. What is the placebo effect? A placebo is usually described as a treatment that has no active medical ingredients. It could be a sugar pill, a saline injection, or even a fake surgery. Yeah, they did fake surgery on people. Wait until you hear the outcome of that research. That's fascinating. But here's what's surprising. Many people still get better when they receive a placebo. Why is that? Okay. The placebo effect happens when someone's symptoms improve because they believe they're getting a real treatment. Their brain expects relief, and that expectation actually changes how their body works to the extent that it can benefit them physically. For a long time, doctors thought the placebo effect was imaginary, like an imaginary effect. Now we know it's based in real biology. Studies using brain scans and medical tests show that the placebo effect changes how the body functions. Here's what happens. According to the latest research that we know right now, the consensus is that the brain releases natural painkillers, which endorphins and opioids. The nervous system calms down, lowering the heart rate and stress. Inflammation can decrease. And there's more and more research all the time, by the way, that shows that inflammation is like a major, maybe the major driver behind most chronic illnesses. Just all kinds of health problems boil down to your body's having an inflammatory response, and then there's some reaction to that inflammatory response in your body that causes not good things to happen. Okay, so the brain releases natural painkillers, the nervous system calms down and lowers the heart rate and stress, inflammation can decrease, and immune system can improve. So that isn't imaginary. It isn't all in your head. These real physical changes triggered by belief and expectation can actually change the outcome. Like, it can lower your chance of an infection after a surgery or after, a secondary infection when you have an illness or whatever. So anyway, placebo effect, statistics and studies, pain relief. A 2015 review in the journal Pain looked at 84 clinical trials and found that people given placebo treatment for chronic pain reported a 30 to 40% reduction in pain. That's nearly as good as many prescription medications. But I don't want pretend better. I want narcotic better. I understand. But, maybe you can do both. Why not take advantage of this? This is amazing. Depression and anxiety. Okay. In studies on antidepressants, the placebo effect is strong. A 2002 analysis published in the American Journal of Psychiatry found that up to 75% of the benefit of antidepressant medications could be explained by the placebo effect. That's a big percent. 75%. I'm not, and I am not saying that people shouldn't use medication, or I am not saying that people should, you don't need to completely change your belief system and completely change your entire life and completely change how you deal with illness unless you just want to. But you don't have to do that to take advantage of the idea that thinking about illness and pain and your body's reactions to things, you can take advantage of that ability to help your body heal without changing anything else. But 75% is a big percent, and I don't think that people should just ignore that. I think a lot of the relief in a lot of things, like pain medications, things that are stopping our pain. So a lot of the relief of an antidepressant, a painkiller, and a lot of different medications comes from the idea that your brain receives this, oh my God, I'm going to experience some relief, or there's some hope that I might experience some relief. So that seems like that is enough to trigger some relief in your body. So couldn't we learn to use that idea and that feeling and that emotion to possibly produce more relief in our lives? I want to. Like, there's no reason not to use it. As far as I can't see a reason not to put this to work in our lives. Why not? And then I know that some people get stuck on, well, I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm not going to just lie to myself. I'm not just going to say I don't have pain when I have pain. But I don't know that I know you could look at it like, ouch, I have pain. It's going to get better. I'm experiencing some relief, like I will be experiencing relief. I am experiencing relief. What if you find out that, quote unquote, lying to yourself benefits your health? People lie to themselves for much worse reasons all the time. So you can possibly fudge the truth a little bit if it's going to make you all kinds of better, or at least not as bad, less terrible, whatever. I think it's worth considering that we can tell ourselves partially tell ourselves the truth as we want it to be, if that helps that become a reality, if you can statistically show, hey, if you tell yourself not necessarily what you're experiencing right at this moment, but what you will be experiencing in the future or what you want to be experiencing in the future, maybe that's not a lie. Maybe that's just acknowledging as fact a future reality. I don't think we have to look at it with so much suspicion that we actually disregard this very interesting and possibly very beneficial methodology of saying, hey, I think things are better than they are. Maybe I'll just tell myself that things are a little bit better than they are. And then, I know that there are also other things that people get stuck on, like it is true that somebody can be in an abusive relationship or in a bad situation and kind of delude themselves and say, like they're really not willing to acknowledge how bad it is. They're really maybe even not consciously or not out loud. They're telling themselves that it's not as bad as it is, that it is better than it is. And you can get stuck in not great situations by doing that. I do acknowledge that. And I don't think that that part of it is good. On the other hand, what about keeping your body more healthy? I feel like there's a place for both of those. Both of those pieces of knowledge can coexist. That's my opinion. And it all has, this all comes back to how do we feel about something? And that's based on how do we think about something? What if we just feel about it as though it will be okay? As though, you know, there's a lot of studies, and I'm not going to go into like higher power stuff, but there are a lot of studies that show that people who just believe that there's a higher power have all kinds of benefits when it comes to health and healing and decreasing pain. That's something that's fascinating. And I think that people should look into it more. I know that more research is being done on it, but I feel like like people in general don't really necessarily know all of this. That's why I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it because it's interesting and I feel like it would benefit other people to give it some thought. Okay, here is the one that really blows my mind. Surgery placebos. Even in surgery, the placebo effect can be strong. In one study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2002, patients with knee pain underwent either a real surgery or a fake surgery. The fake surgery is where they made incisions, but they didn't repair anything. Both groups reported the same level of pain relief after the procedure. And I have a thought on that. I would like to see some research done on the cells, the white blood cells and the stem cells and different things in the body that go toward an injury and do cause some repair. If you have several incisions made in your skin, that is an injury that would cause a bunch of beneficial things to like come and be serving some beneficial use in that area. But it's pretty amazing to me that with fake surgery or real surgery, the level of pain relief after the procedure is reported to be the same. Just, I don't know. It's really, really interesting. Okay. So the placebo effect, I don't know. It has to have something to do with how the person is thinking, how they receive the idea that there is going to be some relief. Here, take this pill or have this surgery or do whatever, and it will bring you some relief. The brain receives that, and the body goes ahead and produces the expected result. So does that indicate that what about other results in our lives that don't have to do with our physical health or pain or how we feel emotionally? Maybe other effects can be, I don't want to say manipulated, but you can see some benefit in things in your external world as well. And there is a lot of research on that, and people kind of tend to think of it again as, kind of a silly woo-woo thing, but I don't know. There's at least some research that shows that the outcome of your life has a lot to do with how you feel about it. So how does the placebo effect work? Belief and healing. Okay, so your brain has some systems in it that activate when there is pain, there are natural opioids in your brain. There are natural endorphins that will be released if you believe that there will be that kind of benefit. You believe that there will be healing. You believe that there will be some relief from your pain or your symptoms. Your brain will release these chemicals that help relieve pain. And okay, positive expectation. That actually lowers stress hormones like cortisol. So if you have an expectation that the outcome will be good, or that this procedure is good, or that, that whatever is going on could be good, will be good, will have a good outcome, your stress lowers, and that makes sense. I went to nursing school. I went to the LPN year. I didn't continue into the RN year because I was having some health problems that were really causing me a lot of physical pain and just emotional problems at that time. But I did notice just over the LPN year, when we went over, most of the big categories of disease and, chronic long-term breakdown in the body, every single one of them without exception, one of the risk factors was stress, which everybody has stress. And I think pretty much everybody acknowledges that you can't live without some amount of stress. There is stress that's necessary, and there's also stress that's beneficial. Like it's stress that says to you in your life, you need to accomplish this in order for the next good thing to happen. You have to save some money in order to buy a house. You have to, you know, there are things that you need to do in life, and it's stress, and great part is stress that propels us to do the things that we need to do. So I think that nobody would really argue that all stress is bad. So where is the dividing line between the necessary, possibly beneficial stress and the stress that is a risk factor for all diseases known to mankind? All long-term chronic degenerative diseases, metabolic diseases, disorders, all of them come down to stress. It's like the main central risk factor. Okay, so to me, I think that the dividing line might be in the overall positive expectation rather than the focus on the stress or the idea. I've known so many people who have said things like, I just can't take this anymore. I just can't deal with it. It's just wearing me down. I feel like I'm falling apart. All of those things, and a lot of people teach this actually, but I think that all of those things are really more detrimental and have more control in our life and our body and our mind than what we really like to think or realize. And I've heard it taught, and I believe that your conscious mind generates whether the things that you think that are true or not. But your subconscious mind isn't interested in what's true or what's not true. The sorting has already been done in the conscious mind, and they take that, your subconscious mind, the workings of your subconscious mind, take what your conscious mind says as fact. So if your conscious mind is saying, I can't deal with this, I'm falling apart, my body is falling apart, and I can't cope with, your subconscious mind is like, okay, here we go. Instructions. We're falling apart. We can't cope. We're falling into disrepair. We're da, 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 da. Whatever it is that the conscious mind says is a fact, or even if you're saying something jokingly, the subconscious mind is literal. It takes it as fact, and it starts to focus in that direction. Let's say focus in that direction. It's not like magic where you say something and poof, that's what happens. But the part of your mind that's not interested in sorting right, correct, good, bad, the part of your mind that's the powerhouse that's going to make things go one way or the other is just taking what you say and focusing, okay, here's the instructions, or here's what we're doing. This is what we're headed toward. Let's make this happen, people. So, what can you do to give your subconscious mind better information to work with, better suggestions, better expectations, better what can we do to feed our subconscious mind better information to have it focus in a better direction. It's really something to think about if you don't want to be falling apart and not able to cope. I've just known so many people who've said things like that, and I'm sure that I have said it in my lifetime, but I make a conscious, concerted effort these days, especially not to say things like that because I don't want any part of my mental capacity to be like, okay, that's the direction we're headed in. Great. Thanks for giving us that instruction. And also, okay, so we've gone over the belief in healing that activates pain relief responses in the brain, positive expectation lowers stress hormones like cortisol, feeling cared for, which a lot of people wait for somebody else to do that, but feeling cared for, not just doing something caring for yourself, but feeling as though someone cares for you, like feeding yourself that information. Look, I'm cared for. And then caring for yourself like you would care for someone you cared about. That has actually been shown to increase immune system strength, which is just mind blowing to me. Ritual of treatment. Okay, going through some type of ritual that your brain receives as this is healing, this is to take care of myself, this is to treat this negative thing, is actually a signal that your mind takes really seriously. Like I said, the subconscious mind that makes everything happen, that starts taking all the information and focusing it in a direction and working to make things go, and not just think, but go. If you have a treatment that you're using to, help something fix something or whatever, or just a health ritual, like I've also known a lot of people who they tell themselves constantly, I'm doing this because I want to be healthy. So when they eat, oatmeal every morning, they also are telling themselves, I'm doing this because it's healthy. I want to take care of myself. There are some people who really focus a lot on that, which I think is a different thing. It adds a different element than just eating the oatmeal. If you just eat oatmeal every day, I I would be willing. I don't know that this is a research project that's already been done, but I think that if you tell yourself, I'm doing this because I'm taking care of myself, this is how I take care of myself, this is how I'm going to stay healthy, I think that that is a whole thing in itself. So you may eat the oatmeal and it may be healthy. I'm not here to talk about oatmeal, but I am here to talk about the expectation, the drivers in your mind that, the signals that kick on or off in your brain to make something happen. So having um, treatment of some kind or something that you physically do that you tell yourself is good, that has a lot of healing properties just in the thought process or the ritual itself. So don't underestimate that in your own life. How can you put these things into action in your own life, in your own mind? It's, and it seems like it's so easy to do. And also, it seems like it's so easy to do that it gets overlooked a lot. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, but like not really because that's kind of silly. So yeah, I'll think about how healthy my oatmeal is, and then that's as far as anybody gets with it. Well, I feel like this could be really a majorly beneficial thing in probably most people's lives if they were to give it some serious consideration. Go to ChatGPT and say, what things would I tell myself throughout each day? What things would I tell myself if I wanted to develop the expectation that things would work out well for me and that I would be healthy and blah, blah, blah? Get some suggestions. Okay, the nocebo effect, the other side of the coin. It's also important to know about the nocebo effect. This happens when negative expectations cause worse outcomes. For example, if you believe a harmless pill will make you sick, that has been shown to actually cause people physical symptoms of illness. If a doctor says there's nothing we can do, patients often get worse simply because of that statement. it's hard to differentiate, and I know that some research has been done on this topic. It's hard to differentiate. Let's say that somebody has some dreaded illness that's known to possibly be deadly. Okay, so when the doctor says there's nothing we can do, how does the outcome differ than if the disease itself was left on its own and the doctor hadn't said that? It's hard to differentiate and know which is which outcome. But we do know that mentally, people who are less scared have better outcomes. People who have better pain management actually heal better. So both of these things are real. There is a placebo effect that should be really given some major consideration in health outcomes, in my opinion. And there's a nocebo effect, which is somebody says something negative and it influences the outcome in the negative direction. Anyway, the placebo effect is the body using its own internal healing system. In some cases, it works as well as or better than medication, especially for conditions like chronic pain, IBS, anxiety, depression, fatigue syndrome. So, I am a certified hypnotherapist, and I got into hypnotherapy because I am so fascinated with what impact the mind can have on the body. And this explains a lot. You can expect better outcomes by feeling better and working with your mind to create better expectations. It changes the outcome. Hypnosis actually does a great job of bypassing the part of your brain that kind of is a skeptic and mocks everything and thinks everything is ridiculous and is very sure that it is operating factually, and that type of system in the brain to protect you from stupid things, like that's the same system in the brain that's like, no, if you walk out on that cliff and flap your arms really hard, you can't fly, so don't do that, is also the system in the brain that stops you from exploring some of these potentially really beneficial things because it seems, like there's no evidence that, but there actually is. And so maybe by reading through some of this evidence that I have in this article that I'm going to post the link to, maybe, who knows? Maybe that part of your brain will be like, oh, that's fascinating. Maybe we should buy into this, and that would be great. But even if it doesn't, you can bypass it through hypnotherapy and meditation. There are a lot of ways to work on getting your yappy part of your brain, getting that to quiet and getting it out of the way so that you can work with the part of your brain that is concerned with doing things and moving forward. Okay, so I have come to the end of my spiel about the placebo effect, which is underpinned by the idea that our thoughts matter and make a difference in the outcomes in our lives. Our emotions are based largely in our thoughts. So our emotions are just propelling a huge amount of the outcomes in our lives, and we should really give some thought into our thoughts, give some thoughts to our emotions, because it can really change a lot in your life. Even things that I would say that you wouldn't think it should be able to change, which is a lot. Depending on who you talk to, they think none of this should be able to be changed just by our thoughts. So silly. But anyway, okay. This is Kristen Beck, and I am signing off for now. You can visit me at hypnoharbor.com. Hypnoharbor is my hypnotherapy main page where you can schedule a free consultation with me to see if hypnosis or just coaching can help you through some of the difficulties that you're having in your life. And Currently Capsized is the name of my YouTube channel for people who feel cast adrift in a sea of human emotion. It's for everybody experiencing turmoil and wanting to use our emotional processes to benefit us instead of sometimes how it feels like they're attacking us. So I'm going to be signing off for now, and I will be doing releasing these videos a few times a week from here on out. So I had a great time talking to you. And if you want to contact me, you can get a hold of me on hypnoharbor.com. Have a great one, everybody.